Hey guys, so here I'm trying to make a recording that will help you with the listening practice. This is test 4 and part A. So again, the DSE is going to be faster than what we've done before. You might think that this was fast. Well, it's okay, you have about a year. Again, what I suggest is that if this is fast, you slow it down. You could put it at 80%, 90%, but if this is easy for you, then try to speed it up. The point is that you try to practice. You're not going to be Michael Jordan on day one. You need to practice, practice, practice. So every time you try to go a little bit faster. Also, when you practice, it's okay if you repeat it. Hopefully, after you do it a few times, you won't need to repeat it. And so the point is that when you finally do take the DSE, you will be ready. So, whenever you have the listening tests, you're going to have time that you can go through and look at the questions. So, underline or highlight the important parts. It's about social issues. So, you might go ahead and have that in your mind. Things like housing, unemployment. There's so many things. And what's really important for the listening test is to go through quickly and read, like right here where it says unemployment. And so when they talk about unemployment, okay, you might be there. Because let's say that you miss this question. You need to be able to know where you are. Don't get bothered if you miss a question. So go ahead, read through it. I know it's boring, but this is so important when you're preparing for the listening.
Task 1. You do.
All right.
Hey, Gigi.
So we're going to go through this together.
Oh, hi, Michael. I'm glad to have bumped into you. I've got a few questions about the social issue project.
Again, if you find that difficult, here, let's slow it down. We're going to go 80%. Okay?
What about it?
I really have no idea how to begin. I need your help.
No problem, since we're in the same group.
Oh, that's great. Let me just get the note sheet where I wrote some questions and a pen. Okay.
Actually, do you know what we have to do?
Supposedly, we have to research a social issue and then write something about it.
You are partly right. First, you have to identify a social issue that you want to investigate and turn it into a question.
Should you put that you want to investigate? No. This is a summary. So it would just be you turn it into a question.
Turn it into a question?
And if they repeat something, you should know this will be an answer. They only repeat if it will be an answer. Also, the way they make these tests is that they try to have maybe, let's say, a third of the questions to be very easy, so that most people who are trying can get them right. Another third would be medium questions, and then another third would be very difficult questions. This is so not everybody fails and not everybody gets a perfect score. When they make a test, they want everybody to have different scores so that it can really show people are different.
Yes, like, why are there homeless people in Hong Kong? Or, what are the causes of teen drug abuse?
Hang on, just let me write that down. First, I have to identify a social issue. Then I have to turn it into a question. Some examples are: why are there homeless people in Hong Kong? Or what are the causes of teen drug abuse?
So this is obviously an easy one. They repeat them more than once. Now, let's just try going through it faster. We'll see how this is.
Right. The next step is to research the social issue. You'll need to research the social issue, for example, on the internet or in newspapers.
So, research the social issue.
Then, you'll have to collect information by conducting interviews or surveys.
Did you hear that? Collect information by conducting interviews or surveys. Conducting means to do, to give. Again, synonyms. They try to give more advanced words. Here, if you, like conducting is a new word, is if you have something that's very close to conducting, that might be a new word for you, you will get credit for it. The really important part is interviews or surveys. And so if you have something that's spelled similar to conducting, maybe you don't have the C in there, conduting, let's say, C-O-N-D-U-T-I-N-G, you would still get credit for this. Spelling is not 100% essential.
I'll tell you more about that later on.
Okay.
The last bit is to produce a report. But first, let me tell you how to define a social issue.
Okay.
A social issue is an issue that affects many people in a society directly or indirectly.
Just let me write that down. A social issue is an issue that affects many people in a society directly or indirectly.
So now you can see what it's like. The first time we went at 80%. The second time is at 120%. So make sure, if normally when we do 100%, if that's difficult, do it 80. If 100% is easy, go at 120. It will help you. Now we're back to normal speed.
That sounds pretty abstract. Can you give me some examples?
Sure. Take unemployment as an example. Unemployment is a social issue because it affects many people directly. When the unemployment rate is high, people will find it hard to get jobs.
So right here, can you put when the employment rate is high? No. Employment means you have a job. The word they wanted was unemployment rate. That is very important. And if you put when the unemployment is high, then because they do say rate for the DSE, I don't think you would get credit for it because unemployment and unemployment rate are two different things. So make sure that you have that correct.
True.
Unemployment also affects people indirectly. When people are unemployed, they may lose their self-respect. This is especially true if a person has been unemployed for a long period of time.
So, losing one's self-respect.
If the unemployment rate is high,
again, they repeat those questions. If they repeat something, then you know it should be an answer somewhere.
there will be more street crime.
I can imagine that.
So, which social issue would you like our project to focus on?
I suppose the wealth gap. There is a big gap between...
So, maybe before you noticed that what Gigi wants to investigate or just wealth gap, these are the words or the ideas that I would really be trying to pay attention to so you know where in the recording it is.
The wealthy and the poor. I think the wealth gap is a serious social issue in Hong Kong. The problem has a negative effect on our social harmony.
To me, the most serious social issue in Hong Kong is teen drug abuse.
Teen drug abuse?
Yeah, teen drug abuse. Children, as young as 12 years old, abuse drugs these days.
Michael, just now you mentioned that we have to research a social issue and obtain information. How do we do that?
There are several ways to research a social issue. Each method has its own pros and cons. For a start, we can search for information about a social issue on the internet.
That's an obvious place to start.
All right, so which of these would be internet? Right there in the middle upper row.
We can also obtain information by doing surveys and interviews.
So, through
Survey,
surveys
interview.
and interviews.
Or we can find information in magazines and newspapers.
Magazines.
Anyway, we can discuss which method to use later.
And how much time do we have to complete this social issue project? I mean, when is it due?
If I'm not mistaken, it's due on the 6th of March.
Today is the 5th of January, which means that we have approximately 2 months to finish this project.
Yes, this is a big project.
You're right. I guess we'll have to put some effort into it. That is the end of...
All right. So I hope that you got those all right. All right, now we're going to do task 2. Again, let's try to prepare by reading, seeing what kind of questions they're going to ask for. Right here, we can tell they're going to want us to rank these. So you're going to need a number up here. And then this might be a little difficult because they are going to be asking questions. You're going to have to fill this in and this in at the same time. Task 1 was in a nice order, top to bottom. But task 2, we're going to maybe go from up here to down here and then down here to up here. That's going to be a little bit challenging. And then we also have the notes right here. So be sure that you've already done that in this free time.
There are several ways to collect information and data for our research. Let's decide which methods to use.
Before we do that, let's decide on the social issue that we would like to focus our project on. I remember we talked about the wealth gap and street crime yesterday.
No, we talked about the wealth gap and teen drug abuse yesterday.
Oh, that's right. Teen drug abuse. I think it's a more interesting issue to explore. Don't you think so?
Yeah. Our report could look into the causes of drug abuse and how it affects teenagers.
Good idea.
Right. How are we going to collect information?
For a start, we could do some web searches.
Okay, so this is the part where we're going to start to have to put in the answers.
For a start, we could do some web searches.
Sorry, web what?
Web searches. I mean collecting information from the internet.
Okay, the internet is an obvious place to start. There is a lot of information on the internet. You can find information on almost every subject. So, those are the advantages of using the internet for research.
I agree. Another advantage of using the internet for research is that it is convenient.
True.
But it is not the most effective.
Okay, so notice how here we did the bottom section first, above the top section. That's one of the reasons why you need to prepare. You need to be thinking about all the questions. It's not going to be in a nice and easy order always, like task 1 was.
Way to collect information for our project.
No? So what do you think is the most effective way to collect information for our project?
The most effective way to collect information for our project is through questionnaires. We can collect a lot of information easily. A further advantage is it is easy to analyze the results.
That's true, but using questionnaires to collect data can be quite time-consuming. Don't you think so?
No, not really. All you need to do is to design a questionnaire and send it out.
Okay, what about face-to-face interviews? Is that an effective way to collect data for our project?
I think it is the least effective way to obtain information for our project.
And why is that?
First, it is very time-consuming to conduct face-to-face interviews.
That's true.
Besides, it is difficult.
Notice how he was talking about it first, but he was kind of giving an opinion, but then he gave a fact. He gave a reason. That's why you would put in very time-consuming.
to analyze the results.
Time-consuming and difficult to analyze the results.
And as we've said, they repeated the answer, so if they repeat it, of course, that is going to be an answer that you're going to have to put.
How about a case study? We can't really include a case study in our project, can we?
I'm afraid not. I don't think it's an effective way to collect data for our project, because a case study focuses on one story only.
That's right, so let's forget about using a case study. We'll collect our data through questionnaires. We can research the causes and effects of drug abuse on the internet. The next thing we have to discuss is what to include in the report.
And earlier he did say it was the least effective, and then like right there, I didn't click it off before, but you could just, how they're saying very time consuming, it's difficult, would assume that it would be the number 4, even if you didn't remember hearing them saying he thought it was the least effective. So now let's go down to the report.
I suppose we can divide our report into 3 parts. In part 1, we can include an introduction. In the introduction, we can say something about the problem of drug abuse in Hong Kong.
So, some background information. Right. Perhaps we could say something about teenagers' preferred drug choices.
Okay. In part 2, we can include the results of the survey.
Results of the survey? You mean...
The results obtained from the questionnaires.
Oh, yes.
We can present some of the results in charts.
Okay. So, part 2 will have the results of the questionnaires and some...
Now notice there they did say results of the survey twice, but that wasn't an answer. So I have been emphasizing if they repeat it, then it's probably going to be important, but right there, that one wasn't. So yeah, it's not always the case.
of the results will be presented in charts. Right. And the last part will be a conclusion.
Yes, a conclusion drawn from the results, and perhaps some recommendations. Okay, Gigi, have you noted everything down?
Yes, I have. That is the end of task 2.
All right. All right, so now we're going to do task 3. And we need to, again, try to figure out what they're going to ask for. The topic is going to probably be on drug abuse. We see some pills here. It says drug testing. Try to figure out what they're going to be looking for. It's the only page that's in this task. All right.
Task 3. Your English teacher has asked you to create a web page for your social issue project. Listen to a recorded conversation between you and your English teacher, Mrs. Fung. As you listen, make changes to the web page layout below and fill in any necessary information. You now have 30 seconds to study the task. At the end of the task, you will have 1 minute to tidy up your answers.
All right, Gigi, your team has done a fantastic job of putting the project together.
Thank you, Mrs. Fung. Here's a copy of the web page layout for our social issue project.
Why don't you note the changes on the copy as we speak?
Okay.
First of all, the title shouldn't be Social Issue. I know it's a social issue project, but it is too general. It doesn't tell the reader anything about the project that you've done. I think it's better for you to change it to Teen Drug Abuse.
Yes, I should have used Teen Drug Abuse as the title of the web page. Just let me change it now.
And let's not have it in the middle. It's a bit awkward to have the title of the web page in the middle. Most titles tend to be put in the top left-hand corner. Put that photo of the drugs in the middle.
So should I just switch the title and the photo around?
Yes, cross out the photo in the top left-hand corner. Write teen drug abuse under it.
Okay, I suppose I will cross out the words social issue in the middle and write photo under it.
Yes.
Photo. Okay, done.
Now let's have a look at the other boxes in the top row.
You mean the chat reviews row?
Yes, I'm not sure whether chat is really the word to describe that section.
Actually, I intend to link that section to some interviews that Michael and I conducted.
So why don't you simply put the word interviews there instead?
Yes, that makes sense. Interviews. Got that.
I think the word reviews is a bit misleading. What is that section supposed to be?
I plan to link it to the newspaper articles that are related to teen drug abuse.
Okay, why don't you simply use newspaper articles instead of reviews?
Okay, let me write that down. Newspaper articles.
And what do you plan to put in this empty space in the top row?
Empty space?
The box next to newspaper articles.
Oh.
Notice how in the first section again was very easy. It's just top to bottom. Then the second one, task 2, it was difficult because you had to do 2 different sections at the same time. Here you have to follow, they would say upright, the bottom left, that you have to follow the location. That's the part that makes it a little bit difficult.
I intend to put some feature stories there.
You'd better note that down.
Yes, Mrs. Fung. Feature stories.
Feature is spelt Feature. Yes, you got that right.
Actually, I want to put the story of a drug addict in the box underneath feature stories. Do you think it's a good idea?
Why not?
Hang on, just let me write that down. A story of a drug addict.
What are these things on the left-hand side? School drug testing scheme and community projects.
They are both anti-drug measures undertaken by the Hong Kong government.
Okay, and what's this picture with the cough syrup and pills?
Well, this is a picture of the drugs that are popular among teenagers in Hong Kong. Of course, it's not a photograph of the real drugs.
So the first 2 items are related to the anti-drug measures. Why don't you write anti-drug measures in the box above school drug?
So she said it before, but then she said precisely what she wanted there. Anti-drug measures.
Testing scheme.
Okay, anti-drug measures.
And put a caption under the picture.
And notice here, when they said it the first time, what are these? I believe they said the drugs that people like. So they're going to come in a second and say, well, why don't you put in this? So this is like a proofreading exercise where somebody is editing a website. So they're going to give you the first bit, but that's the wrong answer, and then they're going to give you the correct answer. They're going to say drugs of choice. Now they're very similar, but for this they want you to get precisely the right one when you're taking the DSE. So don't move forward. Don't skip it just because you might have wrote something in there. Like I might have wrote the drugs they like, or the thing that they said first, but then pretty sure in a second they're going to say, oh, well, how about you put drugs of choice?
What should I write for the caption?
Write drugs of choice.
Drugs of choice.
Exactly. So right there, I would have erased it because when I clicked on it, that was when I was thinking, okay, they're talking about it. But then I would mark it through drugs of choice. That would be the correct answer. The first thing we put was not right because they're trying to edit the web page.
Okay.
Now, the part about the survey results. Please add the titles of the charts that you are going to show there.
I'm going to show 2 charts in this part. The first one is a pie chart. The title of the pie chart is Reasons for Taking Drugs.
Reasons for taking drugs. That's a good title. Make sure that you write that down under survey results.
The second chart is a bar chart. The title for the bar chart is Number of Teen Drug Users.
What are you going to put in the box next to the survey results?
I haven't thought about that, but in the box under newspaper articles, I will put a table that shows the types of drugs.
Okay, now why don't you put the effects of drugs in the box on the left of survey results?
Good idea. Just let me note that down. Effects of drugs.
Oh dear, it's 3:30 p.m. I have a staff meeting in a few minutes. One more thing about your project. I think your project is very good.
Thank you, Mrs. Fung.
You're welcome.
That is the end.
So that one, again, was difficult, different directions, and it was spatial, knowing they would say, oh, and the row, the column, that's something that's very important right there.
Task 4. Michael is now interviewing a Hong Kong resident about his views on drug abuse. He has asked you to help fill in the interview form below and on the next page. Write the information in the spaces according to the resident's answers. One has been done for you as an example. You now have 30 seconds to study the task.
Again, try to figure out what they're going to be talking about, what kind of answer you're going to need to put in, so that you would know where they are in the, if they say something, where they are in the recording.
At the end of the task, you will have 3 minutes to tidy up.
Excuse me. My name is Michael Lee. I am a student. I'm doing a survey on drug abuse. I'm trying to find out what you think of the drug abuse problem in Hong Kong. Would you mind answering a few questions?
No, not at all.
Thank you. First of all, you look very smartly dressed. Am I right in thinking that you are visiting Hong Kong?
Well, thanks, but no, I'm not a tourist. I live here.
So, what do you do in Hong Kong? I bet you're a businessman.
No, I'm a reporter.
So here they have the word occupation, but they haven't actually said that yet. It's just, what do you do?
I work for a local English newspaper.
Would you mind telling me your age? Are you in this group?
I belong to this age group, the last group on your form.
Wow, you look very young for your age.
Thank you. I have 2 teenage daughters. The eldest is about your age.
That's unbelievable. So, Gigi, you know what to note there. Well, I guess you've already answered my next question, which is about your children. 2 teenage girls. Lucky you. Right, let me ask you a few questions about...
Should you put 2 teenage girls here? No, it just says how many children do you have. It doesn't ask how old they are. It should just 2.
Teenagers and drug abuse. Do you think the problem of teen drug abuse is serious in Hong Kong?
When compared with other countries, I think the problem of teen drug abuse is not very serious. But having said that, I think the problem has become more serious in the past 3 years.
Why do you think it has become more serious?
Because the number of cases of drug abuse has increased significantly. Besides, we have seen reports in newspapers about teenagers sharing drugs in parks.
Yes, there were reports of teenagers sharing drugs in parks. Why do you think teenagers...
So this one, the challenge is that it's faster. They kind of repeat it, but it's not like in the previous time where they say it's slower. Like here he said, yeah, you're right, teenagers sharing drugs in park, blah, 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 is bad. So now we're going to go to the bottom part. What are the reasons? And Here, let's slow it down because this one, the speed is, let's try it at 80% for this part.
Drugs.
I believe that they take drugs for various reasons. Some take drugs because of peer pressure. If they do not take drugs, they fear that they will not fit in.
So you think peer pressure is the main cause?
Definitely. If their friends take drugs, chances are that they will take them too.
That's still peer
Okay.
pressure.
Another reason is drugs are cheaper to buy these days.
What do you mean by cheaper?
Synthetic drugs, you know. Cocaine used to be the drug of choice for many people in the past, but cocaine is expensive to buy. Now, the drug of choice among teenagers is ketamine. Ketamine is a synthetic drug, and it is much cheaper than cocaine.
I see.
Some teenagers turn to drugs because they want to rebel against their parents. Some parents may be too overprotective.
This one is also difficult because here it's bullet points. But like he said, drugs are cheaper to buy, but then he explained how you have different drugs like cocaine and ketamine, how they're different. Rebel against their parents. Then he explained it. So, yeah, if it's still on the same topic, then don't include that. You don't want to have a big sentence here. This is just one line.
Teenagers use drugs because they do not want to live by their parents' rules, to rebel against them, so to speak.
Right.
Some turn to drugs because they are just bored.
Okay. Are you aware that taking drugs like ketamine can cause brain damage?
Okay. Now, here, let's just try the last bit back at normal speed.
Yes, I've read about that somewhere. Oh, in the South China Morning Post. Taking ketamine for a long period of time can lead to memory loss.
Do you know that taking drugs can lead to heart problems?
I've never heard of that, but I can imagine the damage they can cause to teenagers' bodies.
Do you know that the government in Hong Kong has proposed a school drug testing scheme?
Yes, some people oppose it, saying that the scheme infringes on human rights. I think that's ridiculous.
Do you know that the number of teenagers using drugs has increased by 25% since last year?
Wow, that is a big increase. I had no idea how bad the situation has become.
What do you think are the solutions?
So this part, notice how they actually did them in the reverse order. So that's why you go ahead and try to read them in advance so that, like there, they said brain damage. And I think we were all up here looking at first, but then we heard brain damage, so we could go at the bottom. That was the challenging part of that section.
To this social issue?
Well, I think we can start in schools. Schools can organize anti-drug workshops for students.
Anti-drug workshops for students. Right. And what can parents do?
What can parents do? That's a tough question to answer. I suppose parents should give their children as much love as possible. That's all I can think of at the moment.
That's fine. Well, I've finished all my questions. Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
That is the end of task 4.
All right, so again, the best way that you can do the listening is to read it first, because sometimes they go out of order. Sometimes they're going to do it spatially, like, oh, the top column, the bottom, or the right column, the bottom row. It's going to change. Right here, they did question 44, and then 43, then 42, then 41. It's challenging. It's just something that you're going to have to keep on practicing again and again. You can also change the speed. Like I said, if you're practicing at home and this is too hard, make it slower. If this is easy, make it faster so that when you actually take the test, it'll be easy for you. Hope this video has helped, and take care. Have a good one.